Welcome to TeachMeAuto.com. In this video, we're going to show you how to change the rear brakes on this 2004 Dodge Ram 1500.
Now we're going to review with you the tools we're using for our project today.
I'll need a jack, 2 jack stands, and 2 wheel chocks. New rear brake pads, we got the ceramic ones. New rear brake rotors. Some .3 brake fluid. Some high temp caliper grease, some anti-seize lubricant, and some brake cleaner. Also, we're going to use some thread lock. We need an 8-inch C-clamp to compress the piston, a 7/8 socket and ratchet for the lug nuts, a 13/16 socket for the caliper bracket bolts, a 10mm socket and ratchet for the caliper guide pin bolts, and a 9mm wrench for the bleeder screw. We'll need a torque wrench, some hose clamp pliers, a bungee cord to top the caliper, a brake bleeder kit, some shop towels, some safety glasses, a dead blow hammer, and a shop light. We also need some nail nose pliers and a small screwdriver. Now we're going to place the wheel chocks in front of both front tires. Then we're going to loosen up the lugs on both rear tires. Starting with the passenger side, then move over to the driver's side. With the lugs loosened up on both rear tires, we're going to jack the vehicle up off the ground using the rear differential as our jacking point. Once we have the tires high enough off the ground, we'll slide our jack stands into place under the rear axle. Then we're going to slowly lower the vehicle onto the jack stands and continue removing the lug nuts. We'll put the lug nuts inside the tire for safekeeping and also slide the tire up under the vehicle for safety's sake and get out of our way. Starting with the passenger side, we'll apply our hose clamp pliers to the flexible part of the brake line. We're going to remove our dust cover and place our 9mm wrench over the bleeder valve. We're going to attach our brake bleeder kit. And then we're going to compress the caliper piston just a little bit so we can move the caliper off of the rotor. Then we're going to loosen up the brake bleeder screw, tighten up our C-clamp, which will compress the piston, and you'll see brake fluid coming through the plastic line into the bottle. Then we're going to tighten up the bleeder screw, remove the brake bleeder kit, replace our dust cover. Now we're going to remove the caliper guide pin bolts. We're going to start by loosening the top one. And then we'll loosen the bottom one. Once they're loose, we can remove the bolts. Then remove the caliper. Then we're going to use our bungee cord to tie the caliper up out of the way so it doesn't hang on the brake line. At this point, we try to remove the brake pads. We were able to remove the outer one with a screwdriver, but the inner one was too hard to get to. This truck is from Michigan and it has a lot of salt on the roads, so we're going to go ahead and remove the caliper mounting bracket. Then we'll get the pad out after that. To remove the caliper mounting bracket, we use our 13/16 socket and ratchet. We'll start with the top bolt, loosen it up, and remove it. Then we'll go to our bottom bolt. With these bolts removed, we can slide the caliper mounting bracket out of the way and pull our inner disc brake pad off. Now we're going to remove these press-fit metal washers. These are installed from the factory. We'll remove these and we're not going to replace them. So if you destroy them, it's okay. We're using our small screwdriver and some nail nose pliers. With the press-fit metal washers out of the way, we can remove our brake rotors. Now, this rotor came off pretty easy, but sometimes the emergency brake will be catching the rotor and won't let it release. And if this happens, you need to adjust the emergency brake pads in. After verifying that the emergency brake is not set, we access the adjuster by going through this port in the backing plate. We'll insert a standard screwdriver through the port, and going from the bottom to the top, we will turn the adjuster. This is a view from the bottom of how we adjusted the brake pads. This is pulling the brake pads in. Now we're ready to put our new rotor on. We'll put the rotor on and hold it in place with a lug nut. Now we're going to use our brake cleaner to spray it down to remove the oil and grease off of the new brake rotor on the front and on the back. Then we'll get ready to mount our caliper mounting bracket. We're going to put some thread lock on the caliper mounting bracket bolts. We're going to grease the slides where the pads go in with this anti-seize lubricant. Now we're getting ready to install our caliper mounting bracket, doing the top and then the bottom. We'll tighten up the bolts. Once the bolts are tight, we'll torque them to 130 foot-pounds or to the manufacturer's specifications. Now we're going to grease the back of our brake pads with some high-temperature caliper grease. You can do this now or after you install them into the caliper mounting bracket. Now we're going to install our brake pads. We've already installed the inner one, and now we're installing the outer one. This is how they should look when they're in place. Here we're torquing our caliper bracket bolts. Then we're getting ready to install our caliper. So we're using some anti-seize lubricant on the caliper guide pin bolts. And we're going to apply some thread lock to the threads. Then we're going to get ready to install our caliper. Remove the bungee cord. Here we're setting our caliper on a jack stand just for convenience sake, and we're going to compress the piston. Remove our dust cover, install our wrench, install our brake bleeder kit. Use one of the old pads to press against the piston. Then we're going to loosen up the bleeder screw. And we're going to tighten up our C-clamp to compress the piston till it's flush within the caliper. Then we tighten up the brake bleeder screw, remove the brake bleeder kit, remove the wrench, and put our dust cover back on. Now we're going to make sure these little guides that go into the caliper guide pins that go through that is pushed back up in there. We slide the caliper into place. Once we get it into place, we'll install our caliper guide pins. We tighten these up. Once these are tightened, we'll torque them down to 25 foot-pounds or the manufacturer's specifications. Now we remove our hose clamp pliers, move to the driver's side, and clamp the brake line again. Then we're going to compress the piston, remove the dust cover, install our wrench over the bleeder screw, and install our brake bleeder kit. We'll use our C-clamp to compress the piston. We loosen up the bleeder screw, turn the hose clamp, and fluid will come out into the brake bleeder kit. Tighten up our bleeder screw, remove our C-clamp, move our brake bleeder kit, and reinstall the dust cover. Then we're going to remove the caliper guide pin bolts. Now we'll slide our caliper off and tie it up with a bungee cord. With the caliper out of the way, we're going to go ahead and remove our caliper mounting bracket. We're leaving the brake pads in place this time. With the bolts removed, we slide the caliper mounting bracket out of the way. Sometimes we have to actually loosen the brake pads just a little bit to get the caliper mounting bracket off. Now we'll remove our brake pads, remove our pressed fit washers, Sometimes these can be a little stubborn, but don't worry about damaging them as we're not going to reuse these. Then we're going to remove the rear rotor and install our new one, holding it in place with a lug nut. Then we're going to clean the rotor off, remove the grease and oil, front and back. Now we're going to get ready to reinstall our caliper mounting brackets. We put some thread lock on the caliper mounting bracket bolts. Apply some anti-seize lubricant to where the pads slide. We reinstall our caliper mounting bracket. Tighten it up, and we'll torque them to 100 foot-pounds or the manufacturer's recommended specifications. Then we're going to apply the high temperature caliper grease to the back of both brake pads. Then we're going to slide the pads into place. We start with the inner one, and then the outer one. Then we're going to get ready to mount our caliper. We put anti-seize lubricant on the caliper guide pins and thread lock on the threads. Then we're going to remove our bungee cord and get ready to compress the piston in the caliper. Remove our dust cover. Install our wrench and our brake bleeder kit. Then we're going to use one of the old brake pads and our C-clamp. C-clamp in place, we'll loosen the bleeder screw. We'll tighten the C-clamp, then compress the piston to where it's flush within the caliper. We'll tighten up our bleeder screw, remove the C-clamp, remove the brake bleeder kit. Then we install the caliper, and we install the caliper guide pins. We torque them to 25 foot-pounds or the manufacturer's recommended specifications. Remove our hose clamp pliers. Raise the hood. We're going to check the brake fluid before we start bleeding the brakes. As you can see, it's a little low here, so we're going to add some fluid till it reaches the maximum line. Then we get ready, we remove our dust cover, and we start on the passenger side as it's farthest away from the master cylinder. Put our wrench on, our brake bleeder kit. Partner to press the brake pedal, loosen up the bleeder screw and watch the fluid come through the line. Tighten up the bleeder screw, have your partner release the brake pedal and press it down again. Repeat this process until there's no more bubbles in the brake line. And also make sure you never release the brake pedal with the bleeder screw open. Getting ready to move to the other side, so we need to add some more fluid to the master cylinder. Again, remove our dust cover, install our wrench, install the brake bleeder kit. Have your partner to press the brake pedal, open up the bleeder screw, watch the fluid come through the line, tighten up the bleeder screw and release the pedal. Continue this process until there's no more air bubbles coming through the brake line. Once we're done, we'll recheck the brake fluid in the master cylinder and add as needed. Now we're getting ready to reinstall our tire and wheel, where we remove the lug nuts, pull the tire and wheel combo out from under the truck, slide into place, and install our lug nuts. Okay, we're going to snug them down here. Move to the other side, remove the lug nut, install the tire, install the lug nuts and snug them down. Then we're going to lower the vehicle onto the ground, again using the rear differential as a jacking point. We'll jack up the vehicle, remove the jack stands, lower the vehicle back onto the ground, remove the wheel chocks from in front of both front tires, and we're going to torque the lug nuts down to 135 foot-pounds in a crisscross pattern. And do this for both sides.
Well, we hope this video will help you change the rear brake pads and rotors on your 2004 Dodge Ram 1500.
And as always, send your comments to comments@teachmeauto.com and have a great day.